Alright, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for clicking on episode 18 of the MyNBA series. And you don't want to miss this full video because I'll be showing who will be matching up in the 2025 NBA Finals. And now, let's get into the real deal. Where will the star Kyrie and Izzy go? Especially Izzy, we're going to focus on him. Many have said that teams like Orlando, Minnesota, Sacramento, Toronto, and San Antonio are looking Izzy's way to sign the 2023 first overall pick. Old former Rockets such as Charles Barkley and Clyde Drexler have criticized Izzy's decision to force the Rockets to sign him to a big deal, while other players like Gilbert Arenas have sided with his decision to look out for his financial future. And while teams like Toronto are young and up and coming, a team like Minnesota is actually a championship contender right now. They didn't do good last season and they didn't make the playoffs, but they definitely have the core to make Izzy a potential finals MVP in the future. So it'll be interesting to see where he will go. But when we talk about this conference finals, we're going to the eastern side, Miami and Charlotte. LaMelo Ball led Hornets versus the KD led Heat. And when KD signed onto this Heat team, it was clear right at that moment that this Heat team was the top dogs of the NBA, and any team looking to make the finals would have to go through them. So it's not surprising that most teams were trying to strategize to beat them specifically. But this Hornets team has made sure to stay with their roots and their game plan themselves. They don't want to adapt to their opponent's game plan. They want to stick with theirs, and their game plan is for sure just score, score, score. And with the young core of LaMelo Ball, Will O'Neal, and Kadon Ryan, they can just do just that. This Miami team is way more balanced. They are great defensively and solid offensively. But something that hurt them in this series was Jimmy Butler. He didn't score much, and it's been apparent since Tyler Hero has taken a lot more of the shots due to his age and scoring ability, while Jimmy really took a back seat. But even with this being said, this Heat team is still a favorite to win this round and move on to the NBA Finals. But the Charlotte Hornets were not fazed. They made sure they are going to put up a fight. And LaMelo Ball, he does what he does best. He's made the All-Star starting team, and he looks to move on into the next final. So he is not going to back down from this challenge to beat Kevin Durant, a very difficult opponent, someone that is an all-time legend, possibly top 10. But LaMelo cannot do it by himself. He's going to have those supporting pieces like Colin Sexton, Andre Drummond, Keegan Murray, Dylan Mitchell. They're going to have to show up and really help out LaMelo. Kadon, he's going to have to do his thing, but he is expected to do that. While the others, a lot of legends say the others are what leads championship teams. And for the Heat, all they really had was Tyler Hero and Kevin Durant scoring the ball. Gary Payton was good defensively. Bam was mainly used as an offensive player, and the offense of Bam Adebayo was kind of offset by Will O'Neal's defense in this series. So with that being said, who was scoring the ball for the Heat besides KD and Hero? And off the bench, there wasn't much scoring. And for Fred VanVleet, he has decreased significantly in this role. He is the clear odd man out. He has taken a very decreased role, and he just seems not to be the same as he was in Toronto. While guys in Charlotte, they're still scoring, and not only that, they have the mentality of a star. Someone like Kelly Oubre Jr., he thinks he's way better than he is, and that could be bad in some situations, but in times like this, you need a guy that is confident enough to shoot the ball whenever, like he's a superstar, like Kevin Durant. Someone like Marcus Morris also plays with that same type of mentality, and Kelly Oubre was great in this series for a bench player. He was great, averaging 13.2 points a game on 54% field goal percent shooting and 40% from three. He was very solid for this team, and they're going to need that because going into Game 6, they are playing in Charlotte, and the Hornets have a 3-2 lead. Kevin Durant has been slowing down. He played great in Game 1 and Game 2. He scored 32 points in Game 1 and 38 in Game 2, but can he do it in Game 6 to push it to a Game 7? In Game 6, Kevin Durant starts off and he does not play that well to start off the game. And the Hornets, they know they have to take advantage of this. Jimmy Butler as well. That's the thing. He has not been doing the scoring all season. He has not been taking a lot of shots. He's let Tyler Hero do that. And since he's not really scoring, they're going to keep giving it to Hero, which doesn't allow Butler and Bam to get in heavy rhythm throughout the entire playoff series. But it really hasn't mattered. But it matters now. They are playing a great opponent, and it's going to matter when it really gets into the deep of things, when they're going to try to make an NBA Finals. And the Hornets, they are very, very smart, and they kind of seem to be out coaching Eric Spoelstra with their game plan. They are able to still score on this very good defensive team. When it's all said and done, having the lower seed actually helped Charlotte, because in Game 6 in home court, it seemed like that Hornets team was a sixth player on the court, and they take the series in Game 6. Kevin Durant struggled, shooting 8 for 26 from the field. Tyler Hero had 6 turnovers, and LaMelo Ball shines, and he leads this Hornets team to the Finals. They are Eastern Conference champions. LaMelo Ball, Eastern Conference MVP. LaMelo Ball, All-NBA first team, All-Star starter, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and a MVP candidate leading this team, as well as his sophomore sidekick, Kadon Ryan, who averaged 22 points and 7 rebounds in this series, leading the team in scoring. Great series win, and the Hornets are in the NBA Finals. Next, we have LeBron James and the Lakers versus Utah and James Harden. The 1 seed Utah Jazz versus the 2 seed Los Angeles Lakers. These two teams were fighting in the regular season for that number 1 seed spot, and we'll see if the home court for the Utah Jazz really plays a role in this. Anthony Davis played great, and he's going to have to play even greater throughout this entire series. He's playing Jameer Ware, a sophomore center that's only around 6'10" and isn't amazing at defense, so Anthony Davis is expected to do big things. And LeBron, at the age of 40, he's still going to put up points and lead this team with the IQ. And just off the bat to start the series, Anthony Davis did not look too amazing. He didn't look perfect. He looked like he was maybe a little injured from the last series. He still has not fully recovered, and that's something with Anthony Davis you always have to worry about. Will he get injured? Will he not? And the big difference of these two teams is the depth of Utah. Players like Jordan Clarkson really separate the number 1 seed Jazz from the 2 seed Lakers. You do have someone like Bronny James, of course, the son of LeBron. That is a great bench playmaker for this Lakers team, but will the youth of him kind of backfire? It's bad news for the Lakers once again. LeBron is hurt. He will continue to play in this series. Anthony Davis, a fractured hand in Game 4, and he is out for 1 to 4 weeks, but he will come back. He only misses 1 game, and in Game 6 in Los Angeles, due to all the injuries and Utah taking advantage of said injuries, Utah is up 3-2 on this Lakers team, and guys like Mikal Bridges have led the way, an unexpected hero for this Utah Jazz team. They picked him up from a trade this season to start the year, and there's been no looking back. He has been phenomenal. He's such a defensive guru. He is so good one-on-one. They can pretty much just put him on anyone, and he will force them to have to get out of their comfort zone. And it's all thanks to the rebuilding Suns for just kind of letting him go. They didn't think he was good enough to really... He wasn't really improving in their system, but for this Utah Jazz team, he has been phenomenal. He stopped guys like Izzy Ball in the first round, slowed down guys like Jamal Murray and Christian Kelly in the second, and now he's making life difficult for LeBron. And I mean, look at that block by Jameer Ware. Absolute great hustle play by Jameer to get back into the play. Runs full court, and this is what's so deadly. The playmaking of James Harden and the scoring ability of players like Jameer Ware makes it so difficult to beat this Utah Jazz team. And Utah is somewhat like the Charlotte Hornets. They are very offensive focused, but they have guys that can really play defense like Mikal Bridges, Bobby Portis. And now we move on to game 6. As I've said, Anthony Davis mainly is playing through an injury. LeBron as well, but it's not as severe. But Anthony Davis, he also hurt his elbow in game 5, but he's still playing through it. He does end up playing the full game. And as you see, both teams were really struggling to start this game. This game was very close and tight, but both teams were kind of on the defensive end. Not a lot of scoring to start the game. And it might just come down to the role players. And when we talk about the role players, we know Utah has the best depth in the entire NBA, as well as a great star in James Harden. He has not played as good as he did, let's say, in the first round, but again, he doesn't really need to play as good. When you have guys like Jameer Ware who are young, energetic, they don't really lose stamina, and they can help guys that are older and may, lose stamina as the playoffs go on, like James Harden. Mikal Bridges just making life difficult for LeBron on defense, while Jameer doesn't let AD relax on the defensive end either. He goes at him on the offense and tries to make life difficult. And then for guys like Harden, all you really have to do is just play, make, and score, and Harden can definitely score. There's not a really good matchup for James Harden. That's what kind of changed this series for the Utah Jazz. I mean, who can guard James Harden? Bronny can't. Bogdanovich cannot match up. LeBron doesn't really play point guard, and even then, you don't really want to see LeBron with the ball too much in his hands. You don't want to tire him out at 40 years old. Matchup nightmare for this Lakers team with James Harden. And it's going to get very close, ending the game. Utah is going to come down to, can James Harden continue to show up? And the answer is very clear. That yes, James Harden can show up. He has not slowed down a bit. And Jameer, even though he does take a little hit in his production, his points went down to around 18.5, 19 points a game with 8.5 rebounds. And with the Lakers being injured, Harden takes advantage and they win in game 6. Utah is going to the NBA Finals. The first time since the John Stockton, Karl Malone era. And we are going to see a Jazz and Hornets NBA Finals. LaMelo versus Harden, Will O'Neal versus Jameer, and Mikal Bridges versus Kadon Ryan. 2 sophomores, both in the NBA Finals. Just great showing from these young guys. You don't see it too often where young guys are immediately put on the spotlight in the big stages and they show up like this. LeBron, most playoff losses by any NBA player, which really just shows his longevity. And this might be the final year of LeBron. He's 40 years old and he's finally played with his son. It might be over. And we're looking at some matchups. Mikal Bridges versus Kadon Ryan. LaMelo Ball versus James Harden. It's pretty even matchups across the board, especially for the guard positions. Obviously, Jameer is a little bit more experienced and a little bit better offensively. Not a little bit, he is definitely better offensively than Will O'Neal. But Will O'Neal, in that final game 6, he had 5 blocks and 12 rebounds. So he has proved that he has definitely shown up. And looking into the NBA Finals, the leading scorers going into it, James Harden, LaMelo Ball, and Jameer, all averaging over 20 points throughout the playoffs, and 2 Jazz players and only 1 Hornets players. And we have the Hornets versus the Jazz. It is finally here, the NBA Finals. We have watched 3 seasons already. This is the 3rd season, and we have finally went from the beginning of the season, the off season, to NBA Finals, the big stage. Who will show up and who will crumble? And to start, James Harden. Amazing poster on LaMelo and Will O'Neal. And look at that finish by Kadon Ryan. He has really improved this game tremendously. He has become a way better shooter than his younger years. And even though he doesn't get as many rebounds, he tries a lot harder on the defensive end. And his passing has become a lot better. And he's not as dependent on LaMelo. In year 1, he was very dependent on LaMelo to really play make and start the offense. So whenever LaMelo did get hurt, it really just destroyed the Charlotte team. But that's what separates last year's Charlotte team versus this year. They don't just depend on one guy, but of course LaMelo does lead the way for this Hornets team. He has been fantastic, pretty much averaging 20 and 10 through the entire year from game 1 to game 1 of the NBA Finals. And in the first 2 games, 1-1 split, the Hornets win a game in Utah. And then in around game 4, Dylan Mitchell, what a dunk. In game 4, the Hornets actually have the 2-1 lead. They can take a 3-1 lead in game 4 if they win this game. James Harden with the classic step back, not a travel. And look at that. Will O'Neal, great contest, but they called the foul. Hey, at least he went up for it, not scared of the challenge. Kadon Ryan, never scared. Starting his career, he was scared of injuries. A lot of scouts said he could be very injury prone, but early into his career we have not really seen much injuries from Kadon besides maybe the early stages of that rookie season. Kelly Oubre, he has been fantastic to end this playoffs, averaging 15 points a game in the NBA Finals. And as you see, Game 7, the Jazz win Game 4 and they split up in Game 5 and 6, and we are in Utah. The home court advantage for Utah is going to come into effect. The 1 seed Utah Jazz versus the 3 seed Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets had to beat the 2 seed Bucks to make it here. They had to beat the 1 seed Heat, and they had to beat the Atlanta Hawks. They have been underdogs the entire playoff run besides that first round. Can they win again as the underdog? While the Jazz, they beat up in 5 the Houston Rockets, destroyed Denver in 6, not as close as you would think, and they make a very close call with the Lakers. Can they win? Ja Mir trying to get that 6-man crowd hyped up before the game. He doesn't have to do much of that. I mean, it's Game 7. This is one of the biggest moments in Utah sports history, and we are witnessing it right now. Will O'Neal versus Ja Mir Ware, the center. And look at that. James Harden, he does not start the game off well. The Hornets do take advantage of this slow start by this Utah Jazz team. They take a 58-44 lead in the first half. And look at that. James Harden hits a buzzer beater 3, but no, it doesn't count. It's not offense time. And the Hornets have a 54-58 lead over the Utah Jazz team. In halftime, you got to be scared if you're the Utah Jazz. There's still a half left to play though, but of course you don't want to be down. And look at that. They find Will O'Neal. They find the mismatch. He has James Harden on him. But look at that. Right back. How about that for a mismatch? What a dunk. And Ja Mir Ware, I haven't talked about it a lot, but Ja Mir Ware is around 6 inches shorter than Will O'Neal. But look at the hustle play by Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith, a former Suns and Pacers center who was playing very good, and he's known for wearing those goggles. He has been very solid for this Utah Jazz team. Last year they lost their young center Walker Kessler. He was signed to another team. So they replace him with Jalen Smith, and he has been solid. In Game 7, Jalen Smith gets 19 points. Very good. He got most of them in the first half when they were struggling to get the offense going. And Kadon Ryan and Will O'Neal got to talk it over after that play. And Mikal Bridges, he matches up against Kadon Ryan. We all know Mikal Bridges is a great defensive player. He's been doing it the entire playoff run. He has just been like the Andre Iguodala of this Utah Jazz team. And look at that. Mikal Bridges saucing on Kadon Ryan. Even though Kadon Ryan might try on defense, he is not good at it. And right there, Mikal Bridges just reads the play, reads the alley-oop play, and just steals it. And you might be thinking, why is Andre Drummond in the game? Will O'Neal ended up fouling out Ja Mir Ware, baiting some fouls. There's a technical foul, flagrant foul on Ja Mir Ware. Gonna send LaMelo to the line for a free throw. You can't really do that in Game 7. It's a close game. That is very dangerous. And right after, LaMelo dunks on Ja Mir. Just an awful way to try to recover from that really bad foul. foul, and it's a very close game. There's Will O'Neal and the bunk buddies on the bench watching game 7 go down. Look at that again. John Muir Ware, what is he doing? There's less than 3 minutes left and he keeps fouling. A foul on a 3-point shot. Kadon did miss it, but he ends up making the free throws, and it's a 103 to 104 lead. Kadon ends up making the free throw and is tied up. John Muir cannot make stupid decisions like that. That can really cost you a championship. Game 7 is so important. You have to play great, especially when the game comes down to it. And James Harden making sure to orchestrate the offense correctly. They need a good play. John Muir has been selling on the defensive end, and James Harden just says, let me do it myself. With LaMelo not really contesting, he just gets a hand in his face, and they're up 2. And look at that, LaMelo pushes the pace like they've been doing all year, and Kadon misses. And there the Jazz say, let's slow down the pace, let's chew some clock. Smart play by John Muir, and what a recovery on the other end. John Muir on Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond, not that good of a defensive player. He's more of a rebounder, and that is why. What a play by John Muir. And they're going to end up being up by 3 points after this made free throw. 16 seconds left. This decides the NBA Finals, Game 7 of the 2025 season. We've been watching all year for this moment. It can't get much better. Game 7, 3-point game with less than 20 seconds left. This is what all the coaching goes towards, and they gonna give it to LaMelo, and LaMelo shoots the corner 3, and no! He misses the 3. He does not make it. They kind of don't foul that quick, but Kadon ends up fouling Mikal Bridges. He like body bumps him. No flagrant though, so he's going to the line for 2. And on the first free throw, he's gonna take his sweet time before absolutely drilling it, and they go up by 4. The Hornets hit a late game 3, but it doesn't matter. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have ourselves an NBA champion. The Utah Jazz are the champions of the world. Finals MVP James Harden, and for the first time in his career, he wins an NBA championship. And for players like Derrick Rose, they win their first championship. All the hard work from this Utah Jazz team to be the #1 seed, and they end up winning. Hornets, great season for them. They just can't win it when it matters. And man, what moment for James Harden can be much better, and what will he do with his career now that he wins? And we'll just see that next time.